a top of the Thursday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you. We're so grateful to have everybody tonight on a Thursday. We've got a very, very special guest to open up our show tonight, and she's a dear friend. We've been honored to for her to host our show, the McNews and Journal Report, sort of a offshoot of the McFiles every day from 2 to 3, K-Star Talk Radio. We've got the one and only Angeline Orsini. She's been with us before, and we've got her on the phone tonight with us, and we got a lot to talk with her about. Angeline, it's good to see you, friend. Always a pleasure. I've really enjoyed getting to know you this past year, and we're looking forward to many more interviews with you. And I know what you told me before the show. I feel like you do. It's hard to watch the news right now with all the negativity and all this stuff, but it's the world that we live in, not the world we wish it was, and very dangerous times right now. But we're so grateful to have you tonight on the McFiles to talk with us about it. How are you?
Good. Thanks so much, Chris. I appreciate the invite tonight. I'm glad to be here.
Always a pleasure. It really is. I do want to start off just updating everybody what we know about the situation with Iran tonight. There's really been no really major news today. There's been a lot of talk here in D.C. Trump basically, through his press secretary, told Iran that he's giving them 2 weeks. Now we don't know if that's mean that he's going to bomb the what out of them tomorrow night. I mean, with Trump, you just don't know. I wouldn't be sleeping. I'll put it like this: I wouldn't be going to bed if I'm in Iran tonight. If I'm a leader in the Ayatollah, thinking and taking a sigh of relief and saying, "Wow, I got 2 weeks now, and I can do what I want to do." I wouldn't be putting any money on that one, because Trump, ain't no telling what Trump will do. But the world is beginning to get a little bit antsy about it. I watched North Korea tonight come out and say some very ugly things, saying Israel's a cancer on the earth. They need to be eradicated. There's rumors that China is shipping weapons into Iran. And there's also indications that Vladimir Putin is trying to get in there and, of all things, mediate between Iran and Israel. That's like the fox meditating between the two chickens and the hens. But when you hear all this stuff, what is your take on this? I know that we're going to get into the biblical aspect of Israel tonight, but just as a citizen, just as somebody that just watches the news and hears the news, what's your feelings tonight on all this? We're in dangerous waters here. We really are.
Yes, we are. And we know that we knew this was coming. It's just that nobody really knows the exact day and the time. And will this simmer down and maybe be shelved? Will we get a reprieve for a while? I don't know. It doesn't look that way today, but we don't know. And we just know how the end of the story goes, Chris. And so all we can do is keep our hope in Christ and just hold on. I think I'm more discouraged. Well, here's the other thing. You just mentioned China, and that scares me, because if Trump decides to get involved, I'm wondering what China will do. And but the other disheartening thing is more a lot of the Christians and how they're coming against Israel. And then there's so much fighting within the Christian group, those who support Israel and those who don't. There's so much fighting going back and forth right now that I've seen, especially when you tune into some of these Christian talk show hosts and newscasters. I just see it more than I did before in past times. I don't know. What's your thought on that?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because we actually talked a little bit about it today on the radio show about Tucker Carlson and Candace. I don't consider them Christians, but I'm going to just use I'll go like this. They epitomize a lot of the Christian sentiment, though, because there is a spiritual ignorance, Angeline, about the end times and about Israel itself and its role in Bible prophecy, and its role not just in Bible prophecy, but its role in God's entire plan for man. And you're mentioning to me, I know you're working on a new book, and I'm really excited to see it when you get it done. But you was in Micah today, and these Old Testament prophets, Angeline, they saw Israel's travail in the end days. They saw Israel. They saw the first coming of Christ. They saw the second coming of the Messiah. The only thing they didn't see was the church. They didn't see this time that we're living in right now. And it was like a valley that God hid from them. And that was really waiting to be given to the Apostle Paul and the apostles and the epistles of the letters and Peter's epistles, John's epistles, Jude, and so forth. And then the Gospels, of course, account the life of Christ. But I think that a lot of it is that people just don't read their Bibles. And I think that people that do read their Bibles, they try to twist Scripture. They totally ignore the promises of the Old Covenant that says Israel is going to come back to God at the end. And they don't want to believe that. They believe that Israel has completely sinned away her day of grace, that she's not worthy to exist. And it makes it easy for them to buy into this already simmering anti-Semitism and this flaming, raging Israel hate that's in the world. And I think that it's easy for them to connect and hook their train to that because it justifies their lack of Bible theology, their lack of Bible knowledge. And I was driving down the road today. It's funny you said this tonight. I literally said to myself, I was driving down the road, I was running a few errands this afternoon, and I was thinking about some of this, and I said, if people would just read the Bible, there would not be any question about whether Israel is two Israels, or the Israel of old is this Israel tonight, or this has the church replaced Israel? Is Israel cursed by God? Does God command the Christians to support Israel? And I'm going to be honest with you. God simply says, they that bless Israel will be blessed. Those that curse Israel will be cursed. That's Genesis 12:3. I'm helping Ted Cruz out tonight. He didn't know where it was in the Bible. I'll help Ted out. But there's other verses that...
And it's in Numbers. It's in Zechariah.
Zechariah, absolutely.
There's an allude to it in Psalm 122. And Micah 4 does not sound to me like God gave up on Israel. And it's only, 7 chapters, I think. So it's worth reading, especially chapter 4. It's a foreshadowing of God's forgiveness towards Israel in the building of the new kingdom. And it certainly does not sound like he's giving up on Israel. And you have those people that dismiss the Old Testament, and you can't just pick and choose what you want to say, okay, well, this is valid and that's not valid. But this whole thing about, the Jews aren't the real Jews, and then I don't know.
No, I'm going to give you even a more, I'll give you an even more clearer antidote in the new covenant, my friend. Look, if these people want to just ignore the old covenant, if you read Romans 9, 10, and 11, I mean, Paul is as much as in black and white. I mean, he doesn't even do it in a gray area, Angeline. He says all Israel shall be saved. And he clearly says that that's going to happen at the end. And, when you say all Israel shall be saved, and we know they're not saved tonight, that means that's yet future. I mean, that's a New Testament principle. That's not even an Old Testament principle. Paul is talking about things in the new covenant. So I'm with you. I think it's great. I do want to ask you a question about Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and this social media, these social media platforms and these social medias. These I call them sensations. They're not really sensations to me, but they're very popular. And it just seems that both her and him have turned so bitter, just bitter toward Israel. And it makes you wonder why. And I know there's some reasons why, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are, because, look, me and you're in the media world. I've never met Tucker. I ran into Candace Owens at CPAC here about 6 years ago. And I'll be honest with you, I've always said on my show, I never liked her. I never trusted her. There was a lot of people that thought she was the darling of social media. There was things about her that bothered me from the beginning. And I've met a lot of these people in person, and I don't have a high opinion of them, because what they present on that media is not who they are behind the scenes. And I'm an old Southern boy. We just want you to be real. If you're happy-go-lucky in front of the camera, I don't expect some sourpuss and bitter, angry, wretched, offensive person in person. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I want you to be the same way,
Right. I don't know what's happened to her. I remember the first time I ever saw her, it was a YouTube video, and it was just before she got really big and everybody knew her name. And I remember, I think the person that gave her first break, believe it or not, she was on Alex Jones. And after that, she really catapulted her. I mean, she really took off. And then what's also so surprising to me is Dennis Prager, who's a Jew, gave her a big break when she was working for, she had her own show on his, I don't know if it's a network, but it's a podcast platform. And he really made her household name. And a lot of the conservatives really ended up liking her when she was on Prager. And I don't know what happened, but I suspect somebody got to her. And who knows, Chris? Who knows? But
Did you?
There is.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, it is strange how she changed. And, I was actually thinking about that today and about her. And I thought, you know what? I would love to go and dig up some of the old shows she did when she was on Prager University platform and see how she used to talk about Israel then. Because I don't remember, and I don't. I mean, I never really had the time to sit and listen to all her stuff all day long. But it would be interesting to go back in time and see when that transition really happened with her, because I do find it strange.
Well, it's ironic, and I'll mention something here in a minute about today's date of history. But I do want to say this about her too. You mentioned Prager. It's amazing that he would even. I wonder how he feels tonight, because he did give her start. And, she got in this big spat with Ben Shapiro, and that was sort of the beginning of the telltale sign that she wasn't all in. Tucker's issue seems to be this war. He don't want America to get involved. He feels like Israel's influencing our foreign policy. And, look, Angeline, I told you before the show, and this is the conundrum we're in. I talked to a gentleman this afternoon in the store I was visiting, and I told him the same thing. And I said, no matter what Trump does right now, there's a downside, and there's a risk, and there's a negative end to everything. If he sits back and does nothing, and Iran is this close to the bomb, and they get a bomb and they hold the world hostage, he'll get blamed for it. People will scream, well, why didn't you do something about it? If he supplies Israel with weapons and Israel gets the job done, America will be accused of, being directly involved in the war and targeting the Iranian government, which that's exactly what we should be doing. This regime needs to go. This regime is the issue. It's not the people we have an issue with. And then if God forbid, we have to use our warships in the Mediterranean and the Gulf of Oman and that area over there, and we have a direct conflict. And then, as you sort of alluded to a while ago, China, Russia, Turkey, other nations get involved, and this thing blows up in the Middle East. You could have World War III. And Iraq, you have to throw Iraq in there. Look, if North Korea is saying this, the crazy thing about North Korea, they don't have the launchers because the technology in North Korea sucks. But if they could, they would launch. They've got warheads. They just don't have no way to deliver them. And I foresee this as being a very ugly scenario no matter what you do. But we need to remember, America didn't start this. Israel didn't start this. The Iranians refused to come to the table and basically opened their nuclear plants up for inspection. Trump gave them 60 days. Trump made it clear to them. He's been making it clear since 2011. That's 15 years ago. They're not going to get a nuclear weapon, that they do not need to get a nuclear weapon. And to do it is going to be destructive for the world. He's not changed his opinion. So it's just the way that people think. But I would dare say, and I'll go back to the Christian factor, I wonder how many Christians tonight, Angeline, are probably blaming Israel for this, and blaming America for this, and blaming Trump for this, and claiming Trump's about to bring us into a war. Because when I heard that interview with Tucker and Ted, it was embarrassing how rude Tucker was to him. And it was all about this. Yeah. Jews are in control of the government. Jews are in control of the world. That's no different than the protocols of the elders of Zion. It's no different than the rhetoric of Hitler. That's no different than the rhetoric of any anti-Semite out there. That's what they've always claimed, and that's what they believe. What say you?
Well, the Jews weren't perfect, and all throughout the Old Testament, they leave God, they come back to God, they go to pagan practice, and then they come. I mean, the whole Old Testament, it's back and forth. But let me ask you, Christian, what about in the New Testament with the churches?
Come on, buddy.
They weren't perfect either, and so That's the point. That's the point, that none of us, we're all human, and none of us are perfect until Christ comes back and restores. In the meantime, you're going to get what you get. And I don't want war. Nobody wants war. But, you know, there are some bad actors out there that are just, they're dying to have war. And also we know that the book foretells us that the crap's going to hit the fan before he comes back, and that's just how it is.
Well, it definitely will, Angeline. It's going to definitely hit the fan after he comes back, for the church first and then with the church. But I will tell you this is a rumbling, this is an earthquake. My take on this, and this is just my opinion, that, look, I will tell you this, that both Iran and Israel are going to survive this, because both are major players in the end time narrative of Revelation and Daniel, and you mentioned Zechariah, Ezekiel 38 and 39. They're major players that are going to be intact at the Battle of Armageddon, which is at the end of the tribulation period. So we know that right there should tell us that no matter what happens, neither one is going anywhere anytime soon. I got to say this, and I'll get your thoughts on it. Today is actually Sivan 26, or 23, I should say, on the Jewish calendar. It's crazy. Esther 8:9 records that this is the day that Mordecai issued the decree at the behest of the king, Ahasuerus, Esther's husband, that gave the Jews the right to defend themselves from this evil plot by a man named Haman. It was in the Persian Empire, of all places. It was in modern-day Iran when this took place. Haman had convinced the king the Jews were a threat. He convinced them they were evil, convinced them they were going to basically run the government, take over his government, destroy the world. Haman was a precursor and a prelude to Hitler. And he was basically the first one that tried, at least, to perpetrate the world's first Holocaust, to be frank with you. And it was on this day in history that Mordecai had the courage to write that edict. The king blessed it, and the Jews were saved from annihilation. How ironic it is tonight, on this 19th day of June, that we're sitting here in history with the Jews facing a similar threat. Because you and I both know, my friend, if that regime gets that bomb, they're going to hold the world on hostage, and they're going to hold the Middle East hostage. And I'm going to tell you something, I do not doubt that they would use that bomb somewhere. Now, I don't know if they're going to directly do it on Israel, but they would do it somewhere if they got it. Because that's this apocalyptic regime, they're just nuts. You know, most other nations realize you use a bomb, you're going to destroy yourself. Iranians don't think that way, Angeline. They don't care. They want the whole thing to go up in smoke, because they believe their Mahdi, their Antichrist, is going to come on the scene and take over the world and destroy the Jews.
Right.
Interesting stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no, I didn't even know that, and there's no coincidences, Chris. That's really interesting. But, you know, let it be known, we're probably partly responsible too, furnishing some of those weapons and things that the Iranians have. So I don't know. You know, wasn't that Obama that brought the money over, and you know, so we're kind of indirectly, but like you said, President Trump is damned if he does or damned if he doesn't.
Oh, really. Without a doubt. That's the issue. And I mean, again, Angela, he cannot sit around and not do anything. He just can't. I mean, he's got to address this. And I say a comment already in the chat tonight that we either deal with it now or deal with it later. We don't want to deal with this later. Look, this is the way I look at it. He's a lame duck president. He's not running for re-election. You know, once he's gone, I can tell you the next president, be it Republican or Democrat, will not, I don't think, have the fortitude he has to address this. He is going to have to be the one that can set in motion things in the Middle East that will last at least until the Lord tarries, things that will change generations to come, okay? Now, we don't know when the Lord's coming, but if he gives the Iranian people a chance to to rise from the ashes and bring I'm not expecting a democracy like we have in the Middle East. That's been our problems in the past. America's tried to import democracy there, and we saw what that got us in Iraq. We've seen what it's got us in other parts of the Middle East. It don't work. Let the people choose their government. Let the people be free of these mullahs, and let them rise up and maybe shake themselves free of this jihadism. And who knows what will happen, okay? At least in the short term. Now, I know what's coming in the long term. But in the short term, give the Iranian people a chance. And I think that's what he's really hoping to do with this. That's my opinion. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, any interviews that you see of him, you can tell he's really struggling with this one.
Oh, he is.
I caught an interview, I think it was on Fox, and they were talking to I think it was an exiled prince of Iran. And he was talking about how the people there were really wanting something to happen so that they basically could get rid of that, the supreme leader, and who's I don't even know who it's not a president or a prime minister. I don't know what they call it over there, but the leadership, they're saying that the feeling that he got was that the people are hoping that something happens to overthrow their current leaders.
They do.
Because they're just over it all.
Yeah. I mean, there's videos out there on the internet, YouTube, X, you really ain't got to search hard for them, of the Iranians quoting and chanting death to the mullahs. Not death to America, but death to the mullahs. They're tired, and they're ready to rid themselves. Because, see, and this is what makes our nation's response to this so insane. The very same people that are telling us that we need to not do anything to address the Iranians, and the same left that claims that, Angeline, if they were in Iran tonight, they'd have their heads cut off in about 3 seconds by this jihadist regime. This jihadist regime, they wouldn't pull this crap over there. There's no freedom there. It's oppressive. That's what Sharia law does. That's what the Sharia law is about. You toe the line or you die. That's just bottom line, you know? That's what ISIS did. They kill people that don't adhere to their Islamic view of the world. And I think it's time that these, I don't know if you remember this. I think it was 2009. It was called the Green Initiative or something of that nature, where the Iranians rose up in 2009, and instead of Barack Obama supporting them, he basically sided with the mullahs, and that uprising was quelched. And he has a lot to answer for about that, because there was a time even then, that's what, been 16 years ago, that they wanted free of this stuff. And we wasn't there for them then. We got a president in the place tonight that he's going to be there for them if they will rise up during this time and do something.
Right. Well, I don't know. It is what it is, and we're not going to change it. And like I said, all I know is we just have to be in prayer and look up, Chris. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, well, I think you're doing great. Listen, a couple of other things. What's your thoughts on these riots? I hadn't talked to you much. We had this these No Kings protests.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'm in Florida, and they really did not take off here, of course. But I was kind of looking into that today, and it basically, the news I could find is that it kind of sputtered out. I don't think it gained as much traction as they thought it would.
It didn't.
But they did say that now they're going to shift, and they're going to start these ongoing localized actions and rallies and phone banking efforts and targeting specific legislation. So in other words, they're not quitting and it's not over, but they've spun it off into something else. They're always looking for something to complain about. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, it's funny to me that it was from Palestine to the sea about 6 months ago with these college campuses.
Right.
Now it turned into No King's Day. Then it was, now it's let's free Iran from oppression. Let's free Iran from America. So they can't get their theme right. And I saw a little protest in the city that I'm in tonight. And it was comical to me because the signs were all over the place. There was one sign, my body, my choice. The Palestine thing was mentioned. It was another one about trans, Trump's against trans community. He's going to destroy all tranny people. There was racism in those signs. Trump's a bigot, Trump's a fascist, Trump's Hitler. There's no message. And then I listened to Jasmine Crockett tonight. She did this interview yesterday with Katie Couric, and she claims that the MAGA community are mentally ill. That's 80 million people in this country. She believes if you support Trump in any way, you are mentally off. And then you've got these transgender Did you see the transgender dance that the two transgenders did at the Oregon State House yesterday?
No.
Because the Oregon State House agreed that they're not going to bow down to Trump about this men and women sports thing. So to celebrate that, they brought two transgender dancers and they danced on the floor of the Oregon House yesterday. But Jasmine Crockett tells me and you, Angeline Orsini, that we're unstable and we're mentally unstable because we support Trump.
I saw it looked like a transgender person on a video today that popped up. And they were talking about now there's a new set of pronouns. Have you heard this, Chris?
Yeah.
The new set of pronouns now are pup, P-U-P, like in puppies. That's the new set of pronouns, and we shouldn't question it. If this person, I don't know, it looked like it was a girl, but I don't know, but it had different color hair, and she was talking about how the new set of pronouns are pup, and that we should just not question this. Even if we don't understand it or agree with it, we should just roll right with it. And they're calling us crazy?
Yeah, they're calling us crazy. And let me just say this. What's more crazy when you've got the Senate Minority Leader asking for $600,000 to teach illegals how to avoid ICE? He did that tonight on the Senate floor. Is that not mentally insane? Is it not mentally insane to kill a baby 1 month out of the womb? They don't even care if the baby's in the mother's womb anymore. They don't care that if the baby's 3-4 days after the mother's womb, she decides I don't want it, the Dems say let's kill it. You've got again a group of people that believe it's okay to do transgender surgeries on minors. Look, our state of Tennessee. I want to tip my hat to my home state tonight, not my home state, but where I live tonight. The Supreme Court stood with us yesterday, 6-3, or it was Tuesday, that said that it is illegal now for these trans doctors or these doctors that push this theology that they cannot do these transgender surgeries on minors in the state of Tennessee. The ACLU and other trans groups tried to tear that down. Supreme Court said, no, you've not got no legal right to do that, and Tennessee has every right to say it's wrong. And that was a win. But then you've got the left out there tonight. I watched a video on MSNBC tonight that the guy was complaining that we are being cruel to the trans community and not allowing kids to have transgender surgeries done on them. What is mentally insane about that, Angeline? That's insanity. That is mental illness. It's evil.
Yeah.
It's wickedness.
It's demonic.
It's demonic.
Yeah.
But the left does that quite a bit. What is your take, and I'll keep you here for a few more minutes, and what is your take on the country in general? I know that me and you are faith people. We're faith people, but I do want to get your take on where we're at spiritually as a country. I'm not sure we're much better right now than we were before Trump came on the scene, even though our leadership, our politics, he's trying his best to keep us on the right path. But Angeline, it comes down to the people. The people have got to want this. And it seems to me that we're kicking and screaming as a country to go with God. And you know, it don't matter what the leadership of this country tries to do, and the decisions we made is right. If you have a populace that don't want to do this and don't want to do the right thing, it ultimately ain't going to matter who's in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Well, spiritually, we're in the toilet. So, you know, I don't know. Until, like you said, it's not going to be a man that's going to change it. It's up to us, and it's up to us to get spiritually on the right track. Until then, I don't think we're going to get rid of all of this demonic stuff. But, you know, you mentioned Trump. I wonder, do you know whatever happened with him and Tulsi? Did you hear that he had said something about her in the negative, that she's messed up?
Yeah, what it was that she went before the House Senate Intel Committee back in March, and the media cut and pasted a statement she made about Iran not quite having the capability to make a nuclear bomb. And somebody confronted Trump with this. Caitlin Collins did of CNN, and he said, I don't care what she said, they're within days and weeks away of getting a bomb. And from what I understand, they're on the same page. That was, a media thing. They were trying to drive a wedge between him and her. Now, I think that it's telling to me that his inner circle, the only people that are in those meetings right now where he's deciding what to do, John Ratcliffe is there, and there's 3 others. Hexteth, I think, he's basically waiting for orders. But Tulsi, the National Security Advisor, NSA head, is not in those meetings. Now, I don't think there's any rift between him and Tulsi. I think that if there was, Trump would say more about it. Because Trump's he calls a spade, even with his own cabinet. And he's not going to sit there and let Tulsi make policy for this country. I think it was a misunderstanding. My personal gut, is that the media blew it out of proportion, and they nitpicked what she said, and it was not really what she was saying, because she has said over and over that Iran's a threat, and she came out yesterday and said, look, I've always said that Iran is posing a threat to our nation. So that was what all that brouhaha was about.
It sounds more like you said they were just trying to drive a wedge between them on purpose.
They always do.
I mean, the more divisiveness they can gin up, whether it's in the government or just amongst all the people groups of this country, that's exactly what they do. They spend their whole time doing that.
We did a story the other night about China. I want to ask you about this. The Kash Patel, he came out yesterday and to a committee and gave Grassley documents that indicate that the Chinese in 2020 were sending bunches, I mean not just a few, but bunches of fake driver's license over here to get people to use those fake driver's license to get fake mail-in ballots, okay? Now, I lost 2 channels over this stuff. I know friends that lost channels over it. I was probably put on timeout more than a toddler was in kindergarten by YouTube. Anytime you mention anything that the 2020 election was stolen, they would censor you to death, and they'd go after your network. And come to find out, what we were saying back 4 years ago was true. It was true that there was shenanigans going on with the 2020 election, and the Chinese were behind it. I don't think that comes as any shock to Angeline Orsini, does it?
No, it doesn't. I wrote a whole chapter in Solar Society about China, and I mean, we go way back with China. I think China bought and paid for us already, and the only people that don't really know are the American people. And so that does not shock me at all. And it appeared to me that Biden was probably more going along with, you know, the things that China would want to do. And then when Trump came in, it kind of disrupted that. And so that doesn't surprise me at all that they would meddle in the election to try to get him back in. But
yeah, I'll agree with that. I put it like this. I keep saying this because I hear everybody talks about exposure and this. I'm sort of sick of the word exposure because I just want something to be done about it. You know,
Right.
and if you notice something, if you noticed, all this headline stuff has taken a lot of stories off the front page. Just 2 weeks ago, the fervor was the Epstein list. Just 2 weeks ago, the fervor was Joe Biden's decline. The Democrats didn't even show up for the hearing. He showed up at a Texas church today, by the way, for Juneteenth. I didn't even want to mention the holiday, but it's not a holiday to me. It's a blasphemous slap in the face of America, what we're doing today. It's an absolute disgrace that we're doing this because it's all race baited. And I do want to ask you a couple of general questions, not so much news stories, but I want to talk to you about in general. Last time I had you on the program, we talked about the cabinet. As we've gotten about 3 months away into the administration and we're getting into the 6 month time frame, is there any of the cabinet members that you're concerned with tonight? I think we even discussed this even on the radio. Who our bets was that we're gonna our bets were that we're gonna betray Trump the first. And so far, nobody's really reared their head. But is there anybody that's disappointed you and who has surprised you in a good way so far?
Well, I remember we talked about Elon Musk, and I don't know where they are with that now. He's out of there.
Yeah.
But then I heard they had a rift between them, and that's why when I started hearing they had a rift, and then now I heard Tulsi. Tulsi, I did not trust either when she started making her way on Fox News and doing all the interviews, and it seemed like overnight she turned from a Democrat to a conservative. But I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt because I really liked her. Because the one thing I did agree with her when she was a Democrat is that she was not for wars, and she was not for, that's when Obama was in and they were going and toppling over all these countries, and she was not for that. And so I really supported her. But I really started to question her because I'm not the type of person that's real dogmatic where I won't, just because I like somebody and have liked them doesn't mean I'm going to hold to my allegiance, because this is the thing. If I find out that they're doing something wrong and it's wrong, I call a spade a spade. So I was hopeful that when Trump chose her, that she will do a good job. And so I was kind of disappointed the other day when I heard that he had said something about her, and I really didn't know what had all happened.
Yeah, I think it was just nothing. I think she's been sidelined, though.
Yeah, so far I'm pleasantly surprised that she hasn't disappointed yet, but come on, we're early in the game still.
We are.
I mean, let's say this way, if in 2 months it came out that, all this, she was really conniving behind the scenes, it would not surprise me in the least. And anybody that you would, I'm just not surprised anymore when I hear these things.
I'm not either. And I think you make a great point. And of all the cabinet members, she was my least favorite, even though I'm like you, I've been pleasantly surprised so far. And I think overall he's picked a jam-up cabinet. There are still some growing pains that, again, we need to be patient about. And I think you just nailed something. It's hard for us to realize because it seems like he's been in office a year, okay? Because he's been so busy and doing so much already. And Angeline, he's only been in office. Look, today is June the 19th. He took office January the 20th. We're not even 6 months, huh? We're 5 months. He's only been in power 5 months. And I think we got to give these people some time. But I will tell you this, events like what's going on in Israel and Iran, I'll just put it like this. Can you imagine if this was a Kamala Harris administration handling this tonight?
No.
Think about that. I mean, I'll take this bunch anytime. 3 times on Sunday, 16 times on Sunday. I'm not going to complain about what we got tonight because it could be a lot worse.
Oh, it could be a lot worse. Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What has been your biggest, with Trump himself, what's been your biggest thing you think he's done the best and maybe one of the things you wished he would do more of?
Trump hasn't, this is just my observation. He's not the same guy. I hate to say this, but he just seems very tired and burnt out. He doesn't have the same energy he had. This is just something I've noticed in his interviews. Have you noticed that, or is it just me? But I've just noticed a difference.
Yeah, I think so, Angeline. I'm with you there. There is a difference. I think that he is, maybe it's his age, because, he is, older. I mean, he's 8 years older than he was in 2016, 9 years older, actually. And it was 10 years ago this last week that he walked down that elevator with Melania and announced he was running for president. So you've got a 10-year situation. I think that it's just my opinion. Maybe he's learned to take things in stride more, and what we may perceive as maybe a lack of energy is maybe him not just trying to be bombastic like he was before. And he's still bombastic sometimes. Now, he's still Trump, and that's why we love him. But I think that he's learned to take things in stride. But I think that the press has always been a thorn in his flesh, and I think that I can see it because I want to throw stuff at my television. When I hear this press corps run their traps, and I see stuff like I saw in Katie Couric with Crockett and CNN and MSNBC and the crap news network and the Constant Bull something network and the Nothing But Crap network. Look, I get frustrated as a citizen. I can only imagine as president what he feels. And I think that he's trying to restrain himself because I think that he realizes that, look, he's got 4 years and he's going to have to get this stuff done, and he's going to have a lot of help to get it done. He can't do this all by himself. He's got to have Congress. And I think that that's my take. Now, you may be right. It could be an energy thing. I think it's more him trying to sort of take things in stride. Because as we get older, McDonald's learning this. I've been doing this 7.5 years. I used to throw bombs all the time on this network. I've learned to chill out a little bit and enjoy myself.
Well, he does still call them out.
He does call them out. Yes, he does.
He does still call them out. So you got that. But I think we need to give him more time. I mean, obviously, I think everybody thought on day one the economy was going to turn right around and everything was going to be hunky-dory and perfect. And, it's just going to take time. Things will take time to turn around, I think. So we just have to give it more time.
I think
I'm not
Trump,
really sure yet.
I see a statement that says Trump's more resolute. I think that's what I see too. I think that he's more focused. And I will tell you, I think one of the reasons why he's going so fast with things, because there's no guarantee what's going to happen in November of 26. If this Congress flips back over to the Dems, Angeline, God help us all. I mean, God help us all. If this bunch takes power again in this country, there is going to be some bad stuff that comes down. And I would not want to be Donald John Trump if that happens. I mean, and I think that we need to be very patient with him and very patient. I saw the term warmonger in the chat tonight about him listening to warmongers. Look, I want to remind people, a warmonger is somebody that pushes for war. When something happens to your nation, and if you see a national threat, and I want to make it abundantly clear tonight, Iran is a national security threat to the United States of America. They're not just a security threat to Israel. They are a security threat to America and the entire world because, Angeline, if they get that bomb, the whole world bows to their knee with this oil. And people thought oil was bad under Biden. Let the Iranians get in charge of this stuff. This is a national security threat. They're threatening America. They're saying we're going to destroy America along with Israel. They're not just saying death to the Jews. They're not saying death to Israel. They're saying death to America. The regime is. So they are a threat. This is not about being drawn into war. They've already declared war. Let me do this real quick. 1979, hostages held 444 days. 1996 or 1983, the Lebanon barracks bombing, 222 Marines dead. Guess who was behind that? Iran. 1996, the Cobalt Towers, another 118, 120 people dead, American soldiers dead. Who was behind that? Iran. We lost 18% of our men in Iraq that died in Iraq came as a result, a direct result of Iranian proxies and Iranian influences that have killed American soldiers. Did we not have a picture lesson for us during Obama? They kidnapped 100 of our boys and held them hostage and put pictures of them up every day, mocking America, begging Obama to stop them. And he wouldn't do anything. He never retaliated for that. They had declared war 46 years ago. So this war stuff that we're getting drawn into, we've already been drawn into it, Angeline. We're already in it. People just can either realize that or they don't. Because we're already at war with them, are we not?
Yeah. And have been, really.
We have been. We have been. And if they had the chance, they'd kill us in a second. They'd destroy us in a second if they would. But anyway, McDonald gets wired up. You know how it is. You listen to me every day on the K-Star Talk Radio Network. How's the network doing? Let me ask you this. How's your network doing? We'll sort of talk about more leisurely things as we go out of here tonight. I know it's pretty intense stuff. How's your network doing? How are you doing?
It's doing well, and I'm happy that you signed on and that you've got your daily show. That's not an easy thing you're doing, and I know, plus you've got these shows at night, so I don't know how you juggle it all, but I'm very happy that you're doing the daytime show.
I've enjoyed it. I didn't think I would. I was scared at first a little. I've never actually done something daily like that, and but that hour goes by quick. McDonald runs his mouth a lot, so I didn't realize how quick an hour can go by with me running my mouth, Angeline. I'm just saying, And on the radio, they can't see my face. I got to be careful here because they see my expressions, and my expressions sometimes give my thoughts away. On the radio, Chris can be sticking his tongue out and gritting his teeth. They can't see that. They may hear it in my voice, but they can't see my face. So they can't see the eye roll, I guess, is what I'm saying. But anyway, well, buddy, listen, it's been a pleasure. It's hard to believe we've been going an hour. I want to thank you. I'm going to sort of say goodnight to these people. Please come back next week. We'll get you back on soon, and I will be in touch with you personally about some things, about the radio and all. But listen, thank you for being with me tonight. Final thoughts. I'm going to give you a chance to wrap us up.
No, all I can say is just remember that the Lord did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So keep looking up, keep everything in prayer, everybody.
I totally agree with that. You are a woman of faith. I appreciate you, my friend, and thank you so much for being with me in this fight. I really deeply appreciate you more than you'll ever know in your network. Angeline and Marie, everybody, I want to thank you for being with us tonight. Angeline, thank you so much. And we'll be in touch. Have a good night. Thank you. Thanks for being with me. Put some fire in that house for tonight. That was a great interview. We appreciate her being with us. We want to thank you all for being with us tonight. And anyway, it's good to see some folks in the house tonight, and if you got a question or two, we'll take it. I've got a ton of video that I want to play, but I'm not going to get to all of it tonight. There's some things that I do want to share with you if I can get my glasses on here and make sure I'm playing what I'm wanting to play. This is, what is this? We downloaded some of these things today. This is the MSNBC crew complaining about the Tennessee law being taken down. This is what I'm talking about. Jasmine Crockett's calling us mentally insane on the right. The Trump folks, we're insane. We're mentally insane. Watch this bunch. Roll the tape.
For the LGBT and HIV Project, the ACLU, and joins me now. It's good to have you here. I can imagine this is a pretty intense day.
It is an intense day, and it's intense to watch my clients talk about their experience as parents. And you and I are both fathers, and I think we, as many other parents, have had the experience of sitting in our doctor's office with our child and our doctor and making decisions together about what our children need. And what this case is about at its core is that Tennessee lawmakers came into that doctor's office and decided they know best, and displaced that careful, reasoned judgment of those parents in Tennessee. And that is unimaginable and should be unimaginable for any parent.
I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
I find it so, what an invasion of this sacrosanct thing of getting your kid medical care or psychological, whatever care it is, that the government is going to tell you you can't do it.
And I think the reality to here, too, is as with all parents and as with all serious medical needs, they grappled with it for a long time and did their own research and talked to doctors and talked to experts. And then finally, they come to a conclusion based on the recommendation of doctors, based on their own research, based on watching their child deteriorate. And then they get this medical care. They watch their child improve. That feeling of seeing your kid come back, and the government comes in and says, no.
The reason the government comes in and says no, you moron, is because y'all are trying to do transgender surgery on minors. Do you not understand that? Do you not get that? Please. See, this is where Chris can say that on the radio and you don't see my face. Just saying. And we're the mentally ill ones? We're the mentally ill ones? Folks, that's mental illness. That's demonic mental illness. That they believe that's right. That they believe that's okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. I want to say it again. It's not okay. By the way, this is Breitbart tonight. If you don't think the Dems are nuts, let me go over here to our newswire. And this is Chuck Schumer tonight about that very same case. Him and Cory Booker went out today and they said that they believe that this was cruel and unusual punishment to the transgender community. And Cory Booker had this to say.
No trans children. I hear the fear. I hear the worry that they're not safe. Think about this for a second. The number one killer of children in America is gun violence. They talk about
untrue.
About that, the threat there, no. Singling out than 1% of our population who has the highest rates of bullying, threats of violence. Heck, about 30% of LGBTQ kids, period, report missing school because of fear, and they made them the center of
that is ridiculous.
Their political campaign. It teaches me to love everyone. What that means is you lead with a more courageous empathy for the struggles of trans children in America.
Cory Booker, you need to be in a mental house. You need to be in a mental house. Elizabeth Warren tweets this out right there. Trans kids suffer when they don't get medically necessary care. This is a brazen political decision by the Supreme Court. No, it's not, Liz. Sure ain't Pocahontas. No, it's protecting the kids. It's protecting the kids. It's protecting the kids. Chuck Schumer. This is a cruel crusade against trans kids and all attempts to divert attention from ripping health care away from millions of Americans. We'll keep fighting and we'll keep marching on. Congressman or woman, this is, let me change this. Congressman Sarah McBride. The ruling in U.S. versus Committee bans health care decisions made by patients and families in consultation with their doctors. Once again, politicians and judges are inserting themselves in exam rooms. This ruling undermines doctors in delivering care to some of the most vulnerable. I'm not even going to finish reading it. By the way, folks, that is the only transgender member in Congress. Let me say it again, folks. And they're calling us mentally insane. That's demonically insane. That you've got leaders. You've got leaders in your House of Representatives and the Senate saying such stuff. This is. I'm going to play this. I'm going to play the clip. This is Caroline Levitt today. I don't have the video, but I do have the audio. Listen to Caroline Levitt today. Iran's got 2 weeks. We're going to talk about this real quick.
Jasmine Crockett, she said, I believe that Trump supporters are mentally ill before calling for bipartisan support.
Actually, this is what Caroline had to say about Jasmine's comments. Roll the tape.
Jasmine Crockett, she said, I believe that Trump supporters are mentally ill before calling for bipartisan support against the president. Can you respond to that, especially considering she's a rising star in the Democrat Party right now?
She is a rising star. It's quite something to behold, actually. I hope that she continues to be a rising star for the Republican Party, at least. I think it's incredibly derogatory to accuse nearly 80 million Americans of mental illness. The last time I checked, Jasmine Crockett couldn't dream of winning such a majority of the public as President Trump did. And the America First movement, which President Trump has built, is filled of hardworking patriots.
Yep, that is true. That is true. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I actually hit the button. Keep going,
women,
Caroline.
Business owners, law enforcement officers, nurses and teachers, and middle America, as we all know, from where you all grew up, outside of this beltway. That's who makes up this president's movement. And Jasmine Crockett should go to a Trump rally sometime, and she can see it for herself.
Yeah, don't count on that. Don't count on that, Caroline. She's not going to any Trump support anytime soon. Got to play you this video right here. Give me a minute. I'm going to download this. This is New York City today. I told you that the chant has changed from Free Palestine to the Sea to No Kings, and now this is the illustrious New York City basically complaining that Israel needs to what's the old saying goes, that they, let me see if I can get here on while that was doing that. Let me do this real quick so we can play this, and then we're almost done. We're going to take your questions here. This is New York City today. These are Iranian supporters in New York City today in our good old US of A marching for Iran to have a bomb. See the Iranian flags? That's going on in our New York City. No U.S.-Israel war on Iran. I want to say it again to you tonight, folks. I'm not going to blink an eye saying it. Let me make it abundantly clear, folks. There is no U.S.-Israel war on Iran. Iran has declared war on Israel and the United States. It's been going on for 4 decades. Israel's just cleaning it up. Israel, even the German chancellor yesterday said Israel's doing the world's dirty work for it. See, Israel's getting slammed for this tonight. Benjamin Netanyahu's getting called every name in the book. And you got these anti-Semites, Candace Owens, who should be ashamed of her natural freaking self for the anti-Semitism that flows from that woman's mouth. And Tucker should be ashamed. Let me tell you something, neighbor. There is no U.S.-Israel war on Iran. It's the other way around. If you don't think they would use that bomb, then you're in the cabinet with Jasmine. I'll just leave it at that. And that is that. And folks, I'm going to just say this tonight. I hadn't had to say this in a while, but it seems that we've got a few individuals in the house that need to hear this. We don't put up with this fake news, fake Jew stuff. You take that somewhere else. This is a network that supports Israel. We got a mind that is clear, a moral, clear mind, a morally clear mind as to who's right and wrong in this. You bring that crap into this network, you will be gone, and you will be exited out the door. You understand? You migo, you sabi. If I draw it in crown for you, I will. I know I'm a little, maybe that's probably not the nicest way to say it tonight. We don't allow that here. There's plenty of, once you go put that in Candace Owens' chat or Tucker's chat or some of these prophets' chat rooms and telegram rooms, they'll welcome you with open arms. We don't welcome you here with that. So take that somewhere else, all right? Take that somewhere else. Rosemary, they were screaming all sorts of things. I have no idea what they were saying either. Zealous says they aren't wearing masks today. Well, not that group. Not that group. Anyway, folks, let's see here. Boy, we get some crazies on Thursday night. Good grief. Zealous says that these days I hear Democrats accuse Americans of evil. I pay close attention because they are showing us what they are doing and who they are, can almost bank on it. You know, Zealous, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'll give you that, friend. Hey, we shouldn't be that shocked by what the Democrats do. I think that's a great statement. We shouldn't be shocked, should we? We shouldn't be shocked. And it's we're right at an hour, so we're right at 10. We're in good shape tonight. We might go a little 15 more minutes. I thought we were later, but we're in good shape. No, I'm with you there. I'm totally with you there. We shouldn't be that shocked. We shouldn't be that shocked. John, that group was in New York City. That was today. That was a protest. It was, let's see, Eyal Yacobi posted that on, actually it was yesterday, the 18th. He posted that on the 18th. And that is the Big Apple, New York City. Let me remind the folks that think that we're being so horrible to Iran and we're being so horrible to the mullahs and we're being so horrible. Let me remind you tonight of something that happened in 1979, 46 years ago. Don't ever forget this. Don't ever forget this. They took our diplomats and Marines hostage. 444 days they kept those people blindfolded, just like that. And the Ayatollah Khomeini then, basically his quote was, quote, America can't do a damn thing against us. The way I look at that, that was their declaration of war then. That's how they feel tonight. So whether Trump gives them 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 days, 2 minutes, or whatever he decides to do, I'm going to be okay with it. I do not believe he cannot do the one thing I will not agree with if he sits back and does nothing. Now that, I think, is going to be the worst mistake that he'll ever make. You can't negotiate with people that do this. You can't. You can't trust them. Folks, has anybody just stepped back and asked the question why these nuclear facilities are underground in the way they are? You know, I watched, was it Jesse tonight? I'm going to try to find that video he played. GeoMotion did a video about why putting boots on the ground, why bringing a military force into Iran is so hard. It's not like Iraq. And it's probably one of the reasons Iran's never been invaded by foot soldiers, because they are basically protected by 3 mountain chains, and the deserts, the military equipment would get bogged down in them and they'd be open sitting ducks. I asked you a question tonight, folks. I'm going to calm down a little bit. Let me say this. Has it hit anybody why that they are even having to maybe request a Buster bomb from America? Not that they are, but why they would need a Buster bomb to go probably 300 feet under the ground. If Iran is on the up and up, and they're such an honest regime, and they're just such a misunderstood regime, has anybody thought about this, that they've been lying to the West at least for a decade? Has anybody thought that? Has anybody stopped to think we're dealing with liars? We're dealing with people that are not going to tell us the truth? Probably not. Probably not. Where was that thing I saw here I had? Yeah, right here. This is another reminder that we need to be reminded of.
Obama left office. He sent $1.7 billion in cash to Iran. The money was delivered in actual cash, stacked on pallets and flown into the country. It happened in January 2016 when Obama authorized the transfer of the money to the nation known for sponsoring terrorism. The funds were allegedly part of a long-standing financial obligation stemming from a pre-1979 agreement. Prior to the Iranian revolution.
Pre-1979 agreement. So Barack thought it was a wonderful idea to give terrorists and give this regime $1.7 billion and not just write them a check. Take pallets of cash to the Tehran airport and lay it on the tarmac.
The United States had committed to supplying Iran with military equipment. However, following the revolution, the transaction was abandoned, leaving Iran to claim reimbursement for the $400 million initially paid. With the accrued interest, this amount spiked to $1.7 billion. The Obama administration decided to resolve the debt. On January 17th of 2016, an aircraft arrived in Iran carrying $400 million in cash loaded onto pallets. The remaining balance of the $1.7 billion was delivered in subsequent shipments. Now, as Israel continues its attacks on Iranian nuclear and military sites, President Donald Trump is deciding how involved the United States will become in this war. Many pointing straight back to Obama as the reason Iran had the funding to continue paying for terror and start building up their nuclear programs.
I have got to find it's elementary matter watching from my laptop down here. I missed that when I'm not here. I've got to get all this straightened out on the screen. Folks, it's elementary, my dear Watson. What did you think, Barack, they were going to do with $1.7 billion blanking dollars in cash? Do you think they were going to go to the beach on it? Do you think they were going to watch the Cookie Monster on Sesame Street? Do you think they were going to serve lattes and open a Starbucks? No. Folks, this regime has been at war with us since 1979. I am not advocating. Nobody wants war. You heard Angeline say it tonight. I don't want war, folks. Nobody wants war. But sometimes when you're dealing with enemies like this, you got to do what you got to do. And you either deal with this, and unfortunately they've left us no choice but to deal with this militarily. They left Israel no choice but to deal with what they're doing. It's justified. And it's morally justified. Benjamin Netanyahu has every right to defend his people. He's the prime minister of Israel, just as Donald John Trump has the moral obligation to defend his citizens from both enemies, both foreign and domestic. That's actually written in our Constitution. That's actually written in our Constitution. Just a reminder. 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 Zella, you say Biden and Obama was acting like Himmler when Hitler was losing the war, moving assets out of the country. History repeats. Not sure if that was what was happening there, but I tell you what, somebody needs. It would be interesting now that we got some people in the right places to look at that transaction 10 years ago. I wonder who else profited from that. I wonder who else profited from that $1.7 billion. But folks, they've used that money to foster terrorism. And by the way, when you get down to it, Iran had their hand in October the 7th. Hezbollah and Hamas and their proxies, they had their hand in October the 7th. And I just can't get over people thinking that it's warmongering to say that we need to defend Israel. Folks, I don't know what part of that we don't get. Look, and I'm not upset with any individual themselves, but I'm just saying the thought that there are people out there claiming that this is warmongering to let the United States help Israel. Folks, we got an enemy tonight. This is a chance to change the course of the Middle East. I don't know whether it's going to change it or not. It may make it worse. But it is malfeasance beyond words to know your enemy has such a weapon that they could use on your people and other nations, and you know you can stop it, and you don't. And you don't. It's not good. It's not good. It's not good. Any questions? I'm getting a lot of statements. If you got any questions tonight, questions tonight. We'll take your questions, folks. We'll take your questions. We'll take your questions. Angeline did a great job tonight. She really did. I encourage you to get her book, by the way, Solar Society. Dennis, your question, I mentioned, I read your statement already. I'll read it again. We're going to have to fight Iran sooner or later, and I think now is the time. While wait till they rebuild. Dennis, I'm glad you brought that up, and I'll tell you why. There was a military expert on the TV tonight that said if Israel goes in there and destroys the Fordow nuclear plant with their weapons, it will put Iran back about 6 months. He said if America goes in there with our Buster bomb and does it, it will never, ever, it will be demolished to the ground. And there will be no rebuilding. I'm going to tip my hat to you, Mr. Floyd. Good to see you, friend. Well said. Better to do it now than wait till later, because it's only going to get worse later. It's only going to get worse later. Thinking the Iranian regime isn't our enemy is like saying Satan is Elmo. That's a pretty good analogy. If you got questions, folks, questions, and I'm getting a lot of comments. I want questions here in the next 10 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up. Good statements, but I need questions. You got questions? Any questions in the chat? Any questions? Any questions tonight? Deb, Pat Dolan, do you believe in demons, that demons are among us? Pat and Deb. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're among us. They're among us. Yeah. That's easy. That's a softball toss. That's a softball toss. Who is supplying them with uranium? Lori, they've been getting that from different sources for many years. And they've been building their own. Secretly, subvertly. That's why these nuke facilities are underground. There are 3 Chinese ships tonight that had Luxembourg on their destination, or planes, I should say, not ships, but 3 Chinese planes that put their flight log as Luxembourg, and they never showed up. They went off course, went into northern Iran, hadn't been seen since. There's people believe that they were bringing weapons into Iran. It's possible, but there's another train of thought. They were taking Iranian people off. I don't think it's the latter. I don't think the Chinese care about the Iranian people. They care about being a thorn in America's side in the Middle East, because I'm going to tell you something. If Iran goes down and this regime goes down and a pro-American government gets in place, China's influence in the Middle East, you can kiss it goodbye. And they know that. So they got a dog in this fight. They got a dog in this fight. Well, Lori, whoever's supplying them, yeah, they should be sanctioned, but it's hard to track that down sometimes. That goes back for years. This is not something new. I just want to say this, folks. What's going on in Iran tonight just didn't happen yesterday. It's been building up. I mean, look, the thing with Obama was way back in 2015, 2016, and the reason for that cash payment, folks, was extortion. I was sitting in a Fuddruckers restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia, the day that this all went down, and you had Morgan Freeman, and you had all these Hollywood biggies, big wheel, big name heavyweights coming out there and saying Obama should get Nobel Peace Prize. He stopped Iran from getting the bomb. He stopped Iran. She's not getting the bomb. That's why he paid this money. And now we're on the brink of World War III because Iran's a few weeks away, according to Trump, from getting the bomb. So I guess that $1.6 billion didn't do a whole lot. And as I said, last time I checked, they wasn't building Starbucks in Iran with it. But anyway. Anyway, all right, no questions. If you got no questions, I'm going to wrap it up tonight. Thank you all for being with us tonight. McDonald was a little wired up today. Or we do not want to use EMPs and nuclear weapons. That is the last thing we want to do. That's the last thing we want to do. We do not want to do that. That was discussed tonight with some of these military people. We do not want to use a nuke. We don't have to use a nuke. America's got bombs, got a buster bomb. We can handle this through the air. This is not going to be a long, protracted war. America could handle this thing in a day or two, at most, maybe a week. It would be done, and Iran would not have a nuclear capability. You don't need an EMP. You don't want to use that. Once we open the door to that, it's a Pandora's box that we do not want to open. We just don't. It's not easier. I understand your question, but it's not easier. That's not the easy way out. It would open a can of worms that we do not want to open. We just don't. I think that the EMP thing has always been, as far as my greatest concern about this nation's vulnerability and the cyber attacks, I think that has always been my biggest concern, that if our enemies really wanted to cripple America, that's what they would do to us. They don't even have to drop a bomb. You think about the computers, you think about the banking, you think about everything that's controlled by computers in this country. Let me tell you something. This country would go back into the Stone Age. This nation you would have rioting on the street. It would create a unbelievable scenario that we probably don't want to think about. So anyway. I understand your question, but no. It would not be easier. Not even close. Not even close. Kel Zealous says maybe China was helping evacuate leadership from Iran to China. No. I talked to Eric Karen today. He was on our radio program. And he believes that Oman, Zella, is going to take the Ayatollah. If he flees, he may already be there tonight. Now, Trump says they know where he's at. I doubt he's not going to China. He's 86 years old. Chinese don't want him. They don't care about him. They care about their influence in the Middle East. They could care less about ultimately, they could care less about the Iranians. They don't care about the Iranians. They care about that oil, and they care about their influence and policy. And look, the Chinese are not our friends. They're our enemies. They want to see America bogged down in this stuff over there. They could sit back and laugh their heads off. And again, I just asked y'all the question as I go out of here tonight, folks. Can you imagine what we would be talking about tonight if Kamala Harris was in charge of this? If we had to, would you be able to sleep at night, to lay down, to realize that Kamala Harris was the one needing to make this decision on what to do with this situation tonight? We better get on our knees tonight before we go to bed. And we better kneel on our side of our bed, put our heads up to the heavens, and say, thank you, Lord, for Donald John Trump. Thank you, Lord, for President Trump. Thank you, Lord, for that imperfect cabinet of his. Thank you, Lord, that America saw the light in November. Thank you, Lord, that Joe Biden got out of that race when he did. And they put this loser that they put up in November. Thank you, Lord, we got a president that has moral clarity. And whether he makes the right or wrong decision, at least he's got a brain that he's going to, I believe, listen to the right people. You know, I read you the thing Tuesday night, Mike Huckabee sent him, and I'll remind you what Mike Huckabee told him. He said, the only person you need to listen to right now is God. God will tell you what to do, that you've been called to this time. This time has called you. I firmly believe that. And I agree with Ambassador Huckabee, who's in Israel tonight. Folks, let me just say this. 89 people were injured last night at a hospital in Israel. That's the kind of people you're dealing with. Israel hasn't attacked any hospitals in Tehran. They've not sent missiles into schools. Iran has been doing nothing for the last 4 nights of sending missiles into hospitals and civilian territories. And they don't care. That's who we're dealing with. And I ask you again tonight, folks, if they're on the up and up, they could stop this at any minute with just saying, hey, we're not going to do this no more. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. All righty. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Please like the video and share it out tonight. Join our channels. We're grateful to have you on a Thursday night. Man, we have we've lost a few folks here tonight. Folks, I want to say it again. And I'm saying this very nicely. I probably didn't say it as nicely as I should have a while ago, but I'm going to say it again. Because there will be people listening to this replay. You do not want to bring this anti-Semitic crap into this network. We don't tolerate it here. And we're never going to tolerate it. We stand with the people of Israel. We're not amateurs here, and we're not naive little country bumpkins here. I'm very aware of the biblical importance of Israel. I'm very aware of the biblical future of Israel. I'm very aware of where Israel's at tonight spiritually. I'm very aware of where she's at politically. And I'm not following their government blindly, and I'm not following Benjamin Netanyahu and worshiping him as a man. I don't worship any man. I don't worship Trump as a man. I have no allegiance whatsoever to a political system, but what I do honor is a nation whose God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They may be away from him tonight, but they're not going to be away from him forever. And he's got a plan for them. He's got a plan for the Middle East. He's got a plan for man. He's got a plan for America. If America wants to adhere to it, it's up to America. It's up to us. I'll say it tonight as I go out again. Israel's mentioned 767 times in the Bible. Zion's mentioned 680 so times. Jerusalem's mentioned 800 times in the Bible. That sort of tells me that there's a little bit of importance in the mind of God about Jerusalem, Israel, and Zion. America's mentioned 0. No mention of Israel in the Bible. I mean, no mention of America in the Bible. And let me say this, folks. There are no 2 Israels. There's no 3 Israels. The Israel of then is the Israel tonight. She was reformed. I heard Candace Owen make a smart aleck remark tonight that a political state was formed in 1948. Candace, why don't you pick up the Bible so you won't sound D-U-M-B? No, Israel of old was reformed in 1948. It's the same Israel that rejected the Lord 2,000 years ago, but it's going to accept the Lord at the end of this coming tribulation period that she's facing. But I want to say it again. I know where we stand here. And we're not ashamed of it. And we're not going to change, and we're not going to back down from it. It would be wise, if that's your bent, to take that anti-Semitic stuff somewhere else. Because there's plenty of rooms for you. There's plenty of that out there. But it ain't going to be here. Because there's a new sheriff in town. It's not a new one, it's an old one. Oh, I'll leave it at that. 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 Hope you have a good night, everybody. Put some fire in that house if you enjoyed the show tonight. I think that got them fired up. I think that got them fired up out there. Pray for your country tonight, folks. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray, 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 pray for your president. He needs wisdom tonight on how to handle this. God knows he does, and God knows we all need God's wisdom tonight. Thank God for Donald Trump. That is him making those decisions tonight, not somebody else. Have a good one. Have a good one. We'll see you tomorrow morning on the Bible study. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon, 2 to 3. K-Star Talk Radio. Thank you, Angelina Marie, for being with us tonight.